Why did Manchester United struggle yet again to break down the opposition in possession? What were United's defensive frailties in midfield and how did Leicester exploit them? And were there any positives for this game, or were United fortunate that Leicester didn't take all 3 points? Well, I'm going to be answering all of those questions in this video, but before I get into that, are you sick of paying extortionate prices for football shirts? Well, that's why you need Jersey Fever. I used to only be able to afford 1 or maybe 2 jerseys per year, but because Jersey Fever have new season jerseys available for less than £20 and retro jerseys for around £30, I now have a whole collection of great quality football shirts, and my favourite has to be my Manchester United 2003-2004 shirt with Ronaldo on the back. So if you like any of these, a link will be left in the description below, and if you use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL at checkout, you'll also get 5% off. So the first major issue I saw in this game for United was their defensive shape. Leicester did have quite a bit of the ball in the first half, and whilst United didn't exactly press aggressively, they did look to engage Leicester high up the pitch, with Fernandes and Pogba the front two, sitting on the edge of the middle third, ready to engage the centre-backs with Sancho and Elanga also positioned high, giving United a 4-2-4 defensive shape when the ball was in Leicester's defensive third. Leicester were using a 2-3-2-3 shape in possession at the start of the game in the build-up phase, with Mendy playing as the deep single pivot as Dewsbury Hall and Tielemans pushed up higher. This meant that when United pressed in their man-to-man 4-2-3-1, which they usually do, Fred would push up onto Tielemans, Pogba onto Mendy, and McTominay sat with Dewsbury Hall. But this meant that because the 2 Leicester advanced midfielders ahead of Mendy stretched out holding wider positions, Fred and McTominay were dragged away from each other as they attempted to man-to-man press each of those players, and this would open up a space between the United central midfield for Iheanacho to drop into, essentially giving Leicester a diamond shape in midfield. And this was a clever move from Rodgers, as he would have known that United would look to press high in a 4-2-4 shape at times, and so he sought to use United's strict man-to-man press against them to drag McTominay and Fred apart and create a space for Iheanacho to drop into and receive the ball. As Leicester moved into United's half, we would then see Maddison drift in from the right side into the half space, with Justin James, the right back, overlapping down the right, providing that width, as Dewsbury Hall also pushed up into the left-sided half space, giving Leicester a narrow front three with those two and Iheanacho, as Barnes played more as a natural winger, holding his width on the left side. And this exploited United's uncoordinated defensive shape, as when Iheanacho would drop off and receive the ball, because Sancho and Elanga were positioned so high and wide, there was massive amounts of space between the wide midfielders, Fred and McTominay, opening up passing lanes for Maddison and Dewsbury Hall. Now usually you associate the Red Bull style defensive system with an extremely narrow midfield 4, and we did see Ranić utilise this at the start of his United reign, using more of a 4-2-2 out of possession. However, now as United use more of a 4-2-4 or a 4-4-2, that horizontal compactness has disappeared, and that's the main reason why United are so easy to play through in central midfield. In possession, once again we did see Ranić go with Fernandes and Pogba as a double false 9, and to be honest I don't think it worked at all. United lacked a focal point to play vertical passes into in order to link the attack, and I thought it didn't get the best out of either Fernandes or Pogba. Fernandes is much better when making runs between the lines ahead of a forward's deeper movement in behind the back line. However, when playing as a centre forward he is starting high up, and because there isn't a player like Ronaldo to drop off and drag the centre back out of the back line, Fernandes doesn't then have the space to run into, and so this resulted in him getting frustrated and dropping deep in front of the Leicester midfield line to then get on the ball. Pogba seemed to retain a higher position, but this negates Pogba's best attributes, which are his ball carrying through the centre of the pitch and his forward and long passing. Positioned high up, he was also tasked with receiving the ball with his back to goal and linking the play, which he isn't terrible at doing, but you do want Pogba in these deeper positions, receiving the ball and switching the play or finding players between the lines or pushing up into the space in behind the opposition's midfield, from where he then has the opportunity to create. In that false 9 role, it was easy for Fofana and Evans to push up onto him and stop him being able to turn with the ball. In general, I thought Ranić got the possession system completely wrong, with Pogba sitting high and left the forward passing in deeper positions to Fred and McTominay, and whilst Fred has improved on the ball, he still doesn't have that top level passing ability to play incisive passes into players between the lines, and frankly McTominay's passing in this game was atrocious, failing with 2 long switches of play out to the left side within the first 8 minutes, and just in general his tendency to circulate the ball sideways rather than looking for that killer pass forward just allowed Leicester to get back into their defensive shape. And Leicester, to be fair to them, were relatively successful in stopping United progressing the ball into the final third. They, like United, wouldn't press overly aggressively, with Dewsbury Hall pushing up alongside Iheanacho to create a 4-4-2 pressing shape. But when the opportunity arose, we would see them then press in a 4-2-4 shape. However, they didn't really push one of Tielemans or Mendy up from the midfield line too often onto McTominay, and so I thought that United had opportunities to play around Leicester's press by working the ball into McTominay and having him turn and find passes in behind Leicester's vertically stretched defensive shape. However, due to McTominay's lack of passing ability, but also United's lack of coordinated positioning in possession, they weren't able to do this. Now, what I mean by coordinated positioning in possession is that when United have the ball, yes, they set up in a shape which is a 2-3-2-3, but it seems like there aren't set movements that each player does in order to open up passing lanes, and so each player's movement, whether that's deep or wide, is done solely to get them on the ball rather than as a part of a wider system of movements to drag opposition players out of position to then open up passing lanes for others. And this fundamentally comes down to the manager, and why I believe that if United had a manager like Ten Hag in charge right now, they would be a lot better at breaking down sides like Leicester when they press high in United's build-up, and therefore they would have more success in working the ball into the final third. As I said in my How Ten Hag Would Set Up Manchester United video, Ten Hag's Ajax side don't just sit in one possession shape. They can transition from one possession shape to another, not just from game to game or in-game, but also throughout each build-up. They can start in a 2-3-2-3 shape, but if the opposition are effectively man-to-man pressing them, cutting the passing lanes into their midfielders, they can transition fluidly into, say, a 3-2-2-3, giving them a wider base to circulate the ball and another player in that deeper central midfield area, and this forces the opposition to either adapt their pressing shape, which is hard to do and can lead to players getting drawn out of position, or if the opposition sticks to their original pressing shape, Ajax can open up passing lanes, getting players into spaces and allow them to play around the press. United don't do this, they sit in their 2-3-2-3 shape, and that's why it was easy for Leicester to stop them progressing the ball forward from their defensive third and then drop back into a 4-5-1 in the middle third. Brendan Rodgers' side did have a lot more positional fluidity than United in possession, as midway through the first half we did see Mendy dropping into the back line, creating a temporary back three, giving Leicester a wider base to circulate the ball around Pogba and Fernandes, and also allowing James Justin, the right back, to push further forward down the right flank, providing a whip so that Maddison could drift infield, playing as an advanced double pivot with Dewsbury Hall in each of the half spaces, and Tielemans would drop into that deep midfield position, creating kind of a 3-2-4-1 shape, which did allow Leicester to progress the ball forward a bit better and control possession in periods throughout the game. But neither side was really able to create much of substance in the final third, and this can be seen as going into half-time Leicester had recorded an XG of 0.37, with United recording just 0.16, and by the end of the game it was Leicester with 1.08 and United with not even one, sitting at 0.90, showing how few quality chances both sides, but in particular the home side, were able to create. But Leicester did get the breakthrough midway through the second half and started with two fantastic sliding tackles, halting United's breakaway. First with Tielemans' tackle on Fred, and then with Dewsbury Hall winning the 50-50 versus Fernandes, and he plays the pass up the line to Maddison, who rather than looking to take on Pogba sees the opportunity and puts in a world-class curling cross with his weaker left foot, and Tellers at the back post is ball watching, doesn't get goal side of Iheanacho, and the Nigerian's header goes across goal so that De Gea can only touch the ball into the net. United did get the equaliser after Varane did well to get in front of Iheanacho to knock the ball on into Fred, who flicks the ball into Fernandes, and Fofana should stand his ground and do better against Fernandes, who doesn't hit the cleanest of shots, but it forces Schmeichel to push the ball out to Fred, who puts the ball into the top of the net to give United the equaliser. From this position you would imagine that United would have been able to stamp their authority on the game, but that didn't happen. Rashford had come on earlier on in the half, playing as a centre forward, which I thought was the right move by Ranić, but United weren't able to utilise his movement in behind because they were losing the midfield battle, largely due to Leicester outnumbering them in the centre of the field, with Maddison and Dewsbury Hall floating in behind into the half spaces. And Leicester did have the better chances to win the game, stemming from individual mistakes from United. Iheanacho missed a gilt-edged one-on-one after Sancho's misplaced pass back to Varane set the former City man through on goal, and then Leicester had a goal disallowed when Varane was fouled after doing well to take the ball from Iheanacho on the edge of the box, but even still for for some reason whilst Varane is on the floor, Maguire, rather than just staying on his feet and making a tackle, throws himself on the floor, doesn't win the ball, and allows Iheanacho to walk through both players, lay the ball off to Maddison, whose finish at the near post past De Gea was perfect, but the goal was eventually ruled out, rightly for a foul on Varane, but United was still lucky to get away with this. But that wasn't it, as but for a world-class David De Gea save to flick Fofana's header around the post, Leicester would have had the winner. So by the end of the game, it was Leicester who probably feel that they deserved the win. United encountered the same problems, a lack of a coherent possession system, making them predictable and easy to press. The use of Pogba and Fernandes as a double false nine not only negates Pogba's best qualities, but it leaves United with no focal point, and overall United's quality in the final third was lacking, with Elanga, Sancho and Fernandes all fluffing their lines in front of goal, and it just showed United's lack of quality and depth in those attacking positions, and how reliant they are on Ronaldo to have a match-winning performance. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like to help the video in the algorithm, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out some of my other Manchester United analysis videos, which will be linked in the description below, and put your thoughts in the comment section as well.